Good evening and welcome back to another exciting episode of Trial Watch with Demetra, with your host, myself, Demetra Lit All Day, or as I prefer to be called, Judge D Lit. Tonight we return back to court reconvenes on the burn pile trial. We had took a break for a moment, but we are back to watching the best moments of this trial, the burn pile trial out of Georgia. Thank you for coming a new member over here and becoming an official member of the Lit Lane Jury Box, watching from Cloud 9. I know you did that when the live was set up. I don't know if you're here, but thank you. Good evening, M. Renee. Okay, you're going to be listening from up top. That's perfect, perfect, perfect. Glad you can make it. Hey, VA Sage girl, welcome back to the Lit Lane Jury Box. Tonight we're going back into, I think I know. Hi, Jill's Comfort Zone. Jill's familiar with this. But BA says, no, I know you wasn't here when we started this best of burn pile trial. We've been kind of slow. This has been a slow burner for us. We just kind of been meandering through it. Watching the best testimonies from this trial. This is the case in Georgia versus Melody Farris. The state of Georgia is alleging that the defendant, Melody Farris, unallowed her husband. This is her husband here, Gary Farris, a very affluent, well-to-do attorney there in Georgia. The motive being, really, I don't know what they said the motive could have been, quite honestly. But the reason why we picked this trial, we actually doing this trial backwards. We watched the sentencing first, and that's what caught our attention and why we reviewed the trial. It's a lot of family drama, a lot of money, a lot of betrayals, a lot of infidelities. It's almost turning out to be almost like a Dallas case, so or Dynasty or something. So you see the patriarch over to the left, Gary Farris, the unalive victim in this matter. His wife over to the right, that was married for over 38 years, 4 children, one which being Chris, the oldest, there to the left. Scott Farris with the shades on. And then Emily and Amanda. And tonight, you guys, I have a treat for you guys. Oh, you been here? Right, we left off with Scott being on the stand. I don't know why I started hollering all of a sudden. Hey, Living. Okay, not a problem. And so we left off with Scott being on the stand. I ain't gonna even lie, y'all. I kind of skipped for tonight. Tonight I went to the testimony of the first daughter, Emily, the oldest girl. And that's where I was gonna start it at tonight. I really have intentions on getting this trial done. I know we said we wanted to listen to the children's testimony, and we're really anxious to get to the testimony from Rusty, the person she had been having an affair with for years, and from what I've heard, the one who ratted on her. Okay, so that's the testimony we're trying to hear here, and then we'll be done with this best of trial. Okay. So I checked back in today on the trial we was watching earlier today, recovering the Ponzi scheme wife trial. And so the defendant did not take the stand today. That's why I didn't come back live with that. But I will be here first thing in the morning. Well, I don't know what first thing means to y'all, but for me, first thing mean 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. Please like this video. And what we're going to do, if y'all hear my puppies, they seem like they're finna get riled up. Yep. I can tell. When they start circling each other, it means it's finna go down. So, all right, Living. I don't know if you heard me or not, but we are getting started today with day 7 of the trial. And we're going to actually move to something different. We're finna hear from one of the daughters, the oldest daughter, Emily. Of course, we're doing this under fair usage. Let me flash that one good time. Do all our housekeeping. And I need to post another one of our Little Lane Pit Crew members got a coffee mug, one that we hadn't seen yet. And it looks so pretty. The Little Lane Pit Crew mug. I need to post that picture up. Those mugs are really fantastic. Let's see. All right, we're into it.
All right, morning stretch.
She's not gonna take the stand? I thought they said last week she's taking the stand. Okay. Makes sense.
Before you have a seat, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, have a seat. And if you could scoot up to that microphone for us. Thank you. You can probably adjust it a little bit lower. Go head pretty tall. There you go. If you could please.
Wireless mic out this morning. Stick one on that lectern.
Very interested to see her personality
There you go.
in comparison to those boys. Right, the link is fine. You can still order one. I know y'all. I said hold up, but it's fine. They look great. I got to get
Seems
another
like it's
one.
too small, but it's not. Nope.
If I just squeeze, just shove it. Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Tap it.
She looked like her mama when she smiled just now.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. There you go. All right.
Must have, because I know I definitely heard that
Shane's
last week.
the one that usually does this for us. There we go. Okay. I don't know what to do.
I think it takes a
Thank
coin.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Red.
Just break things.
I think you need
Go ahead, we'll just work on it.
I think you need a dime or something.
I'll just speak up. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, I'm Emily Farris Payne.
Where do you live, Emily?
I live in Tennessee. I live in Spring Hill, Tennessee, which is about 25 minutes south of Nashville.
Okay, I'm going to scoot this down a little bit.
Okay, sorry.
Kind of speak over it.
Speak
There
over
we
it.
go, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay.
A little quieter than the last couple of witnesses. How do you know the defendant in this case, Melody Farris?
She's my mom.
Welcome back, for so good
And
to
is
see you in the
Gary
box.
Farris your dad?
Yes, he is.
When did you all, as a family, move to Georgia?
I believe it was in 95. We moved from Hoover to Atlanta.
How old were you when you moved here?
Well, I was going into the second grade in Alpharetta, so believe like eight, I guess is how old I would have been. Yeah.
Were you around when your dad was in law school, or did you come after he had graduated?
So I was born like literally right before he graduated from law school. So I was at his graduation from law school, but I was an infant. Yes.
Okay. And so you have always known your dad to work at Burn Foreman.
That's correct. Yes.
How was your dad's work ethic with that firm?
Very good. He was very loyal to Burn Foreman. He always took it very seriously, at least from my perspective. Yeah, I mean, he was dedicated to it. So yeah, he took it very seriously.
When you grew up, how was your parents' relationship when you were younger?
It was good from my perspective. You know, from everything that I saw, they were very loving with each other. You know, like physically touchy-feely kisses, hugs. I mean, they certainly, from my perspective, seem like to have a healthy relationship. Yes.
And from your perspective, did that change at all?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it did change later in the years. I would say not till I got into college was there a difference.
Do you know what caused that change?
Yes. Basically, my mother began having an affair with Ted Wiley, and when my dad found out about it, that's pretty much when things went south.
Okay, let's talk about Ted Wiley for a little bit. Around what time did you become aware of that relationship?
Probably 2009, maybe 2008, 2009. I specifically remember when I found out about it. I just can't remember exactly the year, but I think it was.
Sure. How did you find out about it?
My dad called me. He called me. I was working, and he called me when I was working, and I took a break to talk to him. And he told me that my mom had moved in with Ted, and that they were in a relationship. And that was pretty devastating.
Who was Ted Wiley? How did you know him?
So Ted, sorry.
That's okay, take your time.
Ted dated my Aunt Sherry, who is my dad's sister. They've been together for a very long time. I remember Christmas gatherings when Ted was around when I was like 7. He's been around for a very long time. But Ted was dating my Aunt Sherry. Yes.
And you had mentioned that your mom moved in with Ted, and that's the information that you had at the time.
Yes.
How long did she stay gone?
It was quite a while. It was, certainly longer than a month. I want to say it could have been like 3 months. We couldn't really get a hold of her during that time. And, it was so long ago, it's a little bit of a blur, but it was a good chunk of time for sure.
At any point during the Ted Wiley affair, was there a financial situation that you became aware of between your parents?
Yeah, my dad had called me and said that, like, right before she kind of, for lack of a better word, disappeared, she had withdrawn a significant amount of money from their home equity line of credit tied to the house.
And how was your dad when he told you about that?
He was upset. I kind of can understand where he was coming from. If my spouse did that, I would be upset. I think anyone would, without communicating. But I think that was very troubling for him, because she had never done anything like that before.
Did you say she had never done?
She had never done anything like that before.
At some point over the next year or so, did your parents rekindle, for lack of a better word?
I think there was an attempt made. I moved back to the Atlanta area, and I feel like that's kind of when she came back home, was when I moved back to Atlanta. And I don't know how much effort was put into rekindling the relationship, but she came back home.
Okay. What year was that? You mentioned it was when you moved
2011.
back. 2011.
Yeah. Because that was, after I graduated, so 2011.
So you moved back to the Atlanta area after you graduated?
Yes, from college. Yeah.
Did you move back to the Alpharetta house or somewhere else?
No, I was in an apartment in
Welcome back, Miss Me.
Dunwoody.
Thank you for supporting.
So at that time, did that affair change your parents' relationship in your eyes?
Yes, absolutely changed,
so?
completely changed everything. I just think that he lost trust that was once there. And it was just like we all knew it happened, but there was no explanation from her end on why it happened, or that there was no apology. So it was really hard as a family for us to move on, because it was almost like, we're just not going to talk about that now. But I definitely felt like it was still going on. If, for example, if I were to like go out to lunch, I would see like her texting him. So it's like, you know, things like that. Like, but yes, it was a very bad toll that was taken on our family. Hard to recover from that.
Okay, so I have to pause right here. Welcome back to the Little Ranger, Box Miss Me and Foot Soldier. Thank y'all for joining. I have to say this. Now that we got the one of the girls on the stand, right? It kind of makes me look at the boys, Scott and Chris, and their mannerisms. Some of it I thought was extra dramatical. Some of it I thought was just like they was trying too hard. But now with their sister on the stand, and she literally has some of the same, a lot of the same mannerisms, how they move their head and how they talk and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm like, okay, they just talk like that. That's they deal. It just happens to be more, to me, more palatable from a female. On her, it seems more natural. But seeing all three of them in a row, okay, that's just how the family get down and how they talk. You know, I don't know if y'all notice those same mannerisms, like how they move their head and how they do it and say. They need a Yana. Very animated. They're very animated and very, you know. So now I get it. And I say, dang, maybe I was a little hard on Chris and Scott because this is just how they do. You know? But I still think Scott did it. So I guess it don't change too much of nothing for me. You know, and her eyebrows is like perfect. They far apart, but they match.
Did your parents' financial relationship change?
Yes, it did.
How so?
So my dad removed her from bank accounts, or he, I guess, closed joint, open new. So she no longer was on the bank accounts. So she couldn't, you know, she didn't have access the way that she did before.
I want to move forward a little bit well, let me ask you this. When did you move to Tennessee?
2015 is when I moved to Tennessee.
So your parents had the farm when you moved to Tennessee?
They did, yes.
Were you around when they were making the decision to purchase the farm?
I was.
What was your understanding of why they moved out of Alpharetta into a farm?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was probably a good try to start over. You know, when my mom was in Florence spending time with Ted, he had horses and they would go horseback riding. It was a pretty big deal. And my mom seemed to really enjoy that. So I think buying kind of like a horse farm was kind of like my dad's way of trying to make her happy. I know that's a little strange, but you know, I just think it was a chance to start fresh. I think from his perspective, it was that. But I don't know why together as a couple they decided to move. But yeah, I think it was a chance to start over for sure.
So then you moved to Tennessee after they moved into the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, would your mom visit you in Tennessee?
She would.
And at some point, did you get married in Tennessee?
I did. Yes, I did.
And well, before that, did your mom kind of rekindle a relationship with her cousin Martha Jane.
She sure did, yes.
Tell the jury about that a little bit.
So I can't really remember what year it was that Martha Jane had surgery. I'm sorry, I do not know what kind of surgery she had, but my mom kind of volunteered herself to go up there and help her with that. That from that point is when the relationship with Martha Jane came about and became stronger.
Where did Martha Jane live?
Tullahoma, Tennessee.
And did you ever go with your mom to Tullahoma?
The only time I ever went to Tullahoma was, I think it was once. We were going to go visit my grandmother, my mom's mom. I think it was for Mother's Day. It was going to be like a Mother's Day kind of visit. And so I drove from Franklin, Tennessee to Tullahoma, Tennessee to ride together with my mom
Welcome back, Sean.
and Martha Jane to Florence, Alabama to visit my grandmother. And I believe that was the only time that I ever visited there.
Okay. So you fast forward a little bit, end up getting married in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tell the jury a little bit about what happened at your wedding.
I mean, it was a good wedding. I was the bride, so I was a little, it was like probably in another world compared to everyone else. But our family was there, obviously, and I mean, everything was pretty normal with the wedding, but I don't know. I guess Rusty Barton came to the wedding. I knew he was invited. My mom included him on her guest list. He was there. And at that point, we were kind of aware that maybe something more was going on with him between her, my mom and Rusty, and he came to the wedding. And from what I understand, they were like dancing together, like canoodling, if you will, during the reception.
You mentioned that you all sort of knew prior that something may have been going on. Mm-hmm. How did you know that?
Well, she would like talk, like, so before I even moved to Tennessee, if like I was like out with her, like if we were like running errands or going shopping or something like that, like she would talk about Rusty. Like she would just like bring him up, and you know, she would say something about like, oh, he's such a great grandfather to his grandkids, or blah blah blah. And I was just like, okay, like that's nice. But I don't know, when I told my mom that I was moving to Tennessee, I expected her to be upset, and she wasn't. She was almost giddy. And that to me was like another sign to me that it's like a reason for her to go to Tennessee, is because I'm up there now. And then there was one night after we had moved to Tennessee, my sister was in town. She was working for Tory Burch at the time, and she had to help out at the Green Hills location. And so she was staying with me, and we had planned a dinner with my mom, and I believe I knew Martha Jane was going to go, and they were going to drive up from Tullahoma to Franklin, and we were going to go to dinner. And when my mom arrived at our apartment, Rusty was with her, and we did not know that Rusty was going to be with her. So that was very uncomfortable. I can remember how upset my sister was about the situation. It was very odd to see him there. And then when we went to dinner, they sat next to each other, and just the interactions between the two were of a couple. Like there was, like I felt like under the table leg touching, like getting really close together to talk. just like whispering to each other, like into each other's ears. Like it was so uncomfortable that after they left, after the dinner, my sister was like, we need to tell Daddy. Like, we need to tell Daddy that he was here tonight. And we had a conversation on whether we should tell our dad or not. It was that uncomfortable. But that's kind of when I knew that, why would she be spending time with this guy? We were already kind of suspicious after Ted. So it was strange for us to see her spending time with another man, for sure.
The conversation that you and your sister had, was that with Amanda?
It was.
Did you end up telling your dad?
No, we didn't. And I actually was the one that told her, I just think all it's going to do, we don't know anything. Like, we don't know. And I just felt like all that's going to do is upset him. And so I just, and she was like ready to tell him. She totally was. And I was just like, I just don't think that we should right now, because it's only going to make him upset. And we don't know. We don't know we haven't seen anything. Like, we haven't caught anything, So I told her no.
So I want to fast forward to the wedding. Is that how you all kind of knew something was maybe going on between your mom and Rusty?
Yes, for sure.
And then your mom invited him to your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a conversation about that with anyone?
So basically, I asked for guest lists from both of my parents, and they separately provided me guest lists. I saw that Rusty was on the guest list, and I called my brother and his wife at the time, Jenna, and I said, what should I do? He's on the guest list. She wants me to mail him an invitation, and if I press her on this, she will cancel my wedding. She will cancel my wedding. It'll be over. I felt like my hands were tied. Because that's how she was. They said, why don't you just send her guest list to Daddy, just so he can see it? And so that's what I did. I emailed it to him. And I think in the email I said, here's her guest list. I just wanted you to see who all she's inviting. And he never actually responded to my email.
Can I approach the witness, Your Honor? Okay. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit pane 1 through 10. Defense already had those exhibits, but this time I'd like to move to tender State's Exhibits pane 1 through 10.
It doesn't. All right, there, admitted.
Emily, I'm just going to walk through those with you on the screen, okay? The first few are, I guess these are pictures you provided the state from your wedding?
Yes.
Okay. This is a family photo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's your mom in the kind of silverish dress?
It's like a blush pink, but yeah.
It was a blush pink. And then who's this next to you?
That's my sister, Amanda.
Okay, and Scott,
Mhm.
and your dad,
Right.
Chris and Jenna?
Yes.
Okay. That's you and your dad. Okay, so what are we looking at? Who are we looking at here?
So obviously that's me, that's my husband, Chris, and that's two of my husband's friends, Jason, I can't remember his name.
Sure.
And oh gosh, her name is blanking on me too, but they're Chris's, colleagues of Chris's. So
And your husband's name is Chris too.
Yes.
Okay, so you're talking about your husband, Chris.
My husband, Chris. I'm sorry, my Chris.
No, that's okay. We
Sorry.
should have explained that to the jury. And you sent us this photo. Who is this back here in the background?
That's Rusty Barton.
Okay, and who's that right there?
That's my mom.
What year did you get married?
2016.
And this you and your husband dancing?
It is, yes.
And right here in the background, who are these two folks right here?
That's Rusty and my mother.
And some more pictures of you and Chris dancing. And is it the same, your mom and Rusty back here?
It is.
When you got these photos back, did you notice?
Oh, yes, I noticed that. Mhm.
And is this the same, your mom and Rusty right here?
It is, yes.
And then I want to draw your attention to, well, who's this right here?
That is Chad, Bruce, and Ella, my niece Ella.
Okay. And this is you and Chris.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
That's right.
And then over here, we have what looks like Mr. Barton.
Mm-hmm, That's right.
And do you know who this is in the black or the dark color dress? Maybe blue, I don't know.
Yes, that was, her name was Sherry. She was a friend of my mother's, also a neighbor.
And then is that your mom in between the two? You can see her dress in between.
Yes, that's her.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And who are we looking at here?
So, starting from the left, that's Chad Bruce there.
But it's
In
there.
the sunglasses, that's Rusty Barton. That's my bridesmaid, Natalie Keene. And then that's Sherry, my mom's friend and neighbor.
Okay. And then who do we have here?
It's my mom and Rusty.
And then who's that back there?
That's my dad.
Who are we looking at here?
So that's
Welcome back,
Rusty in the
Hannah
red
Bean.
tie there. My dad is to his left.
Right here?
And then I don't know who that is. Right there, that lady.
Okay.
I don't know if that's Sherry or not.
And so those were photos that were taken at your wedding.
Yes.
After the
Welcome back to the box sit with Black. Good to see
Did
y'all this
anyone
evening.
discuss Mr. Barton's presence? I mean, amongst your family, were there conversations? What was the fallout?
Yeah, not with me. My siblings actually did a fabulous job not making me aware of the situation while it was going on during the reception. I, was talking to everyone in the room. So I honestly, during the reception, did not notice
You
that
weren't paying attention
much.
to that.
Yes. And so even like that after the wedding was over, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it at all. Even like my mom came up with Sherry to bring something to me after we had left, and I went down to the lobby and met her and Sherry, and I didn't think anything of it then. But I think it was in the days after the wedding. It was, I think, my brother Chris that brought up the anger that everyone was feeling during the reception. There was a lot of my siblings staring down the situation. I know my sister told me that she was almost having to be held back. She was so angry at her behavior with Rusty on the dance floor. She almost wanted to it was a reception, we were all drinking, but she was very angry, and Chad almost had to hold her back. And there's just they were telling me things, and I would think back on the reception and remember glimpses of interactions. I didn't know what was going on, but I remember my sister almost looking like she wanted to do something, and Chad kind of calming her down. But my brother did tell me that later, I can't remember how long it was after the wedding, but we were, I think, all just at that point discussing it. Can you believe that? Oh my gosh, that was so crazy. And then my brother Chris was well, we had gone to eat before we left town, and Daddy said, that's the last time she's ever going to embarrass me like that again. I can only imagine how devastated he was by that.
I want to talk about the days leading up to the week of July 5th of 2018.
Okay.
And Emily, you and I have chatted before today, right?
That's correct.
And I've shown you some text messages in those conversations that we've had.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness? I'm showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit Page 11. You can go ahead and flip through that silently, please.
Yeah, did they show a picture of her twerking on the dance floor? Because if they did, I got to rewind it.
And before we get to pane 11, State's Exhibit. I know. I'm not going to show that. Thank you. And before we get to this exhibit, what did you have going on in 2017?
I had a baby.
What year, or I'm sorry, what month in 2017 was your baby born?
Olivia was born November 27th, 2017.
And did you have a baby shower in Tennessee?
I did.
Did your family come up?
They did.
Who all came up?
My parents, my mom and my dad, my brother Chris, his wife Jenna at the time, my brother Scott, my sister Amanda. I think Chad was with her. I think, and Martha Jane was there. I think that was it from my the family. But like all the immediate family were there for sure.
After, what month was that?
I think it was October. Yeah, I think it was in October.
When was the next time you saw your family after your baby shower? Did you go up for Thanksgiving or Christmas or down, I should say?
So I couldn't travel for Thanksgiving because I was pregnant and technically was supposed to have had her by then. But she was a week late. So I was being induced like literally right after Thanksgiving. So I had to stay in town. So I did not go to Atlanta for Thanksgiving that year.
Did you go down for Christmas?
We did.
Who all was together for that Christmas?
So it was all of us. My parents, Chris, Jenna, Ella, Addison, Scott, Amanda, I believe Chad was there, and then myself, my husband, and Olivia.
The bailiff have
So
arrived.
Olivia was less than a month old,
Yes.
pretty much.
She's tiny.
When Olivia was born, did your mom come up and help ever?
She was there. She came when I was induced. She was there. So was my dad. So was Martha Jane. And my mother-in-law, Carla, she came up as well. And yeah, she ended up staying with us for a couple weeks to help with Olivia.
And that was in November, December? Between November?
Yeah, I would say, mostly in December because she was born on the 27th. So I think we stayed in the hospital for a couple days.
Did she come visit you in January of 2018?
I'm sure she did. Yeah, she did come to visit. Yes.
And when she would visit, you were in what city in Tennessee?
We were at that time, we had moved to Thompson Station, Tennessee, which is it's like in between Spring Hill and Franklin.
And State moves to tender, which I already have it up. State's Exhibit Pane 11.
Okay. Good.
Emily, if you could look at this screen, this is a text conversation between you and your mom from January 20th, 2018.
Yeah.
It appears you're telling her to look for some food on a menu. And you are in blue, or it says from Emily to Melody, and then Melody is in green. It appears you guys are getting ready to order some food.
Yes.
Okay. And is that place where y'all are ordering from in Tennessee or Georgia?
Yeah, it's in Franklin, Tennessee.
So your mom was coming up to stay with you on January 20th?
She came up. I don't know if there was a specific reason, honestly, but she came up and she said, "Why don't you and Chris go get something to eat and I'll stay here with Olivia?" And thought that was great. So we took her up on that offer.
Okay. And so then this is you checking in on Olivia right here?
Yes.
Okay. And that's about 8:00 p.m. And then Olivia's laying here talking. She's very talkative today. And then you let her know when you're about to leave the restaurant. Is that you and Chris?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next thread, it looks like there's a little bit of a break So this is the next day on the 21st. You say, did you make it there?
Mm-hmm.
Was your mom going somewhere that day?
She left. Yeah, she left. I mean, if I'm asking her that, I was making sure she made it safely wherever she was going.
Do you remember where she was going?
I don't necessarily exactly, but a lot of the time she would go to Tullahoma. She would go to Florence sometimes. She would have no other place to go in Tennessee other than Tullahoma, to be honest with you.
Okay. And so she's confirming she made it there about 2:00 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
You send her a photo, what looks like a photo of a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
She says you have to record it for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she states she's on the way back at 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So she was gone from what looks like about 2 p.m. Did you make it there? So she may have left a little bit before that.
Mm-hmm.
Till 8 p.m. she started coming home. Is that your understanding of that? Okay.
Yeah, and I mean that makes it me think that she was probably in Tullahoma because of that time range. Especially leaving at 2-ish, she would normally would not go to like Florence to see her mom. Like she would have left really early in the morning to do that just because of the nursing home hours and things like that. So that makes me think that maybe it was Tullahoma that she went to.
Would you go with her to see her mom sometimes?
Yes, not all the time, but like we went and brought Olivia. Yeah, we brought Olivia. I think it was the Mother's Day after Olivia was born. We drove down. She and I and Olivia drove down to Florence to see my grandmother.
So it would have been May.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then she tells you that she's getting off 8:40, which is at your exit or highway or something.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And that's 10 p.m. You let her know. We'll open the garage. Olivia's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the next thread is from June 25th, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
You say, I think we're going to come this weekend. What were you coming here for?
It was for my dad's. We were coming to celebrate my dad's birthday, and I think Father's Day was also wrapped up in there. But it was to celebrate my dad's birthday.
Okay. And it says right there, we can have a cookout for Daddy's birthday with everyone. Was that the plan, to have a cookout?
It was, yeah.
Okay. And she says, you're welcome to stay. She meant to send that to Amanda, that you were coming down with Olivia. And then you let her know you might have to get a jumper for the house for
Mhm.
Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Olivia would have been about 8 months, just under 8 months.
About 7 months. Yeah, so
Okay.
7, 8 months. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second.
You let her know that it'd be helpful to have that for Olivia. Okay, so then you mentioned kind of your timeline, trying to leave the office by 2, stop for dinner in Chattanooga. That was sort of the plan to come down
Yes.
for your dad's birthday.
Yes.
And that was June 26th, 2018.
Yes.
And she confirms, and that she confirms they bought the jumper.
Mm-hmm. She did. She bought a jumper for her.
And she's excited to see her granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
Gets her diapers. And then she got wash and lotion for Olivia, wipes, food, cereal. You chat about what kind of cereal Olivia's been eating.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys chat about the plan for Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that Scott is going to smoke meat.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looked like, well, tell a jury about this text.
Yeah. So my brother Chris and I thought it would be kind of fun to host, if you will, at my parents' house, the cookout. Like my brother Chris was going to smoke the meat and I was going to make the sides. And I told my mom that we would really like to be able to do that for the family. And after I told her that, I found out that Scott was going to be smoking the meat. She had gone out and bought Scott a brand new smoker to smoke the meat. And I did reach out to her about that because I was like, why is Scott smoking the meat? I thought Chris was going to smoke the meat. So that was what that text message was about.
Okay. And then she lets you know apparently Chris has to work.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Scott were talking.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where you kind of let her know you were a little frustrated about that.
Yeah, I was kind of being passive aggressive with her, being like that's kind of rude of Scott to just make that decision. I knew she was behind it, but I was just saying like, that's not very nice of Scott to do that when he knew that Chris was going to do it.
Oh, so that's where you say it's not very nice of Scott to have done that. And she kind of had met with your brothers.
She
lets you know Chris didn't seem upset, asked what time you're leaving, and you were driving through Murfreesboro.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the 29th.
Yes.
And Olivia was asleep. And then you let her know you forgot the infant bathtub. She says, don't worry about it. We can grab one. And then you update her when you're in Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
All right. She tells you to be safe. Do we need anything? We're on the way back to the house. And then Melody says, going to get ice.
Mm-hmm.
And then this must be, okay, so then you arrive at some point, I guess. Did you arrive on the 29th or 30th?
I'd have to look at a calendar. We left on a Sunday, so I believe we got there on a Friday.
You left Georgia.
We left Georgia
Sunday.
to go back to
Okay.
Tennessee on a Sunday. Sorry.
No, that's
and we
okay.
drove down to Atlanta
Took
on
you
a
week.
Friday.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
So then on the 30th at 2 p.m., did you run out?
Yeah, I mean, Chris and I, we left. We went to go to do something with Olivia, and we always just checked in with her.
Your husband, Chris.
Yes, my husband, Chris, sorry. We would always just check in with her before driving out to the house just to make sure she didn't need anything from the store or anything.
Okay. And then she's asking if y'all had breakfast. You said we ate breakfast, and she mentioned she had chicken salad ready in case y'all were hungry and you stopped at Kroger. Okay, I'm getting to the bottom here.
Just a lot of back and forth.
And then you're on your way back home, it looks like, on the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's checking in on Olivia. And then you get, okay, so at Gary's birthday / Father's Day,
Mm-hmm.
was there a conversation about a beach condo, Chris going to the beach with your dad, or anything like that you were privy to?
I mean, I knew that they were going to the beach. They had invited me to go, but I did not have the time off from work, so I wasn't going to go. But yes, I was aware that they were going to go to the beach.
Okay. And so you left on the 1st, and on the 2nd, looks like your mom texts you about that beach,
Mm-hmm.
a beach trip. Can you read that, please?
Just giving you a heads up about things. Chris continues to charge his cable, phone, and airline tickets to Gary's checking account. Charged their honeymoon and their beach trip year you got married to us as well. Now another beach trip. After I told him no, and and why. After I told him no and why. He never paid back Jenna's ring that was financed by us. I have had it. I'm taking measures to stop this insanity. So you received that on July 2nd. So that would be the Monday before your dad's
Remains were discovered?
Yes.
When you received this message, what were you thinking?
I thought it was intense, to be honest with you, but I thought it was intense. I don't even know if I responded to her, honestly. I know I sent it to my brother, Chris, just to kind of give him a heads up of how angry she was.
I want to chat about generally the finances in your family and your father, his knowledge and control of that.
Mm-hmm.
What was your perspective, or what did you know about your father's oversight of the family's finances? Did he have a routine? Would he chat with everybody about what they were spending?
I just know, I mean, he was such a, like, he always had his habits. So growing up, it was Sundays. He would go down to the computer and he would check the bank account. And usually it's like Sunday's the day that like you like don't upset him because he's about to get upset about the checking account. I mean, if ever there was any arguing between my parents, it was usually with how much money my mom had spent that week during just shopping and stuff. I don't know if he continued to do that after we had all essentially moved out. But he looked at it. I wouldn't say he would do it every day. He's a very busy guy, but he looked at it on a weekly basis.
I want to talk about your house in Tennessee that you and your husband purchased. Tell the jury a little bit about that and how your dad had to get involved.
Sure. So we bought that house in 2016. So anyway, my husband and I, we were getting married. We decided that we were ready to buy a house. So we started looking at a house and we found one in Thompson Station, Tennessee. And we were going to purchase it. All was good until we got to the underwriting portion of the mortgage application, and we discovered that my husband was not going to be able to be on the mortgage because he had a previous judgment against him that would keep him from being eligible. So I pretty much went into panic mode. As a first-time home buyer, I was like, oh my gosh, like we've already invested all this money. We have not only done the down payment, but we've upgraded and things in the house. It was a new build. So we had put a lot of money into it. And so I was very nervous about losing it. So, I mean, my husband reached out to me and he was very upset that he wasn't going to be able to be on the mortgage. And I was like, let me just reach out to my dad. He will help us. And so I did. I reached out to my dad and I said, this is a situation. Like, is there any way that you're willing to be a co-signer? Because my husband and I both worked full time. He had the higher salary of the two of us. So myself alone on the mortgage would not have been enough. So I did reach out to my dad for help. And he said, I know what it's like starting out. And yes, I will absolutely help you. So I'll be honest with you, we did try to keep it kind of a secret from my mom, just because we knew she would be upset about it. But then in the state of Tennessee, whenever you go to purchase a house and you're married, your spouse has to give you permission to do that. So we had to tell her. She's very angry that he was helping me, very angry. But basically, she said the only reason that she would agree to it or allow him to do it is if she were put on the deed to my house.
Okay. What does that mean for those of us that
she would have ownership? She would have ownership of my house. And that was upsetting, but I was in a really bad situation and I knew I really had no other option. And I was like, it's okay. That's what I told my husband. It's like, it's okay. We'll do this right now and we will refinance once like we'll let a year go by. We'll let this, judgment fall off, or like settle on your record. we will refinance and we'll get it under our name and it'll be fine. But it made me very uncomfortable to have her. My dad was a very reasonable person. He's very logical. So like, I knew he would never give me a hard time. I knew she would give me a hard time. And that made me really uncomfortable. Basically, her reasoning was, if anything ever happens to him, I want to be able to essentially have some sort of like access, control to it. So that's what she said is her reasoning. And she had made some comments like about him unexpectedly passing away. So she had like brought things up like that before. So anyway, again, just to do it, just so we could get the house, I said, that's fine. So it was me, and then it was my parents together, like on the deed. So we closed and we moved in.
Did your dad give you money for the down payment?
No.
Did he ever pay your mortgage?
No. He actually, in fact, told me before he did it, he said, Emily, if anything happens and you guys can't make the mortgage payment, I cannot make your mortgage payment. And I said, I understand.
Did you expect him to?
No, absolutely not.
You mentioned that your mom would make some comments about what if your dad unexpectedly died? What kind of context was that in?
It was more like there was, my dad was having these like medical health issues where he would feel, they would call them spells, but he would like feel like he needed to lie down, like he didn't feel well. So those were starting to happen more often. And I remember I came to Atlanta from Nashville to go visit my parents one weekend. I think I was by myself that weekend. It was before Olivia was born. And my mom and I had run out to like go to a local nursery, and we had come back and we were in the car, and she said, like my dad's health came up. She brought it up and she said, I'm not on any of the bank accounts. And I said, oh yeah. And she said, well, like what will happen if he like passes away unexpectedly? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, he's having all these like spells where he's needing to lay down and all this stuff. I was like, Mama, I just think he's depressed. Like, I just think like, that was the time where it was like their relationship was really bad. And I was like, I just think he's depressed. And when you're in that kind of state, you just need to go lay down. And I was like, but you know, I did what every child would say to their parent, like, Mama, if that were to ever happen, it would be fine. Everything would be fine. Don't worry. She did bring up something about him having her removed as his beneficiary on her 401k. And I work in HR, so I'm kind of familiar with that. And I just said, I don't think that he can remove you as his beneficiary unless you got a divorce. And she said that he made her sign a piece of paper removing her from the beneficiary. And at the time, I didn't know that much about it, but I was like, if you're legally married, I'm pretty sure your spouse has to be your beneficiary in your 401k. So I just kind of put her at ease in that moment. Like, no, everything will be fine. Like, we'll make sure everything's taken care of. Like, don't worry. If anything like that were to happen, you know, it'll be fine.
Okay.
Welcome back to the box, Lady Tia. Good to see you.
Jump forward again, kind of to where we were the day of this text message, the 2nd. Where were you that week, geographically, physically?
I was in Tennessee.
Did you have to work that week?
I did. Yep.
I think we really need to pause right there because we don't want to kind of let that speed by us, right? So, hey, here you had the Bird PILE trial. We're watching the best moments from it. And this is the oldest daughter and one of the first girls to testify, Emily. I think, okay, what I wanted to say and point out was, so Emily just said that before the man died, that the mom had a conversation with her indicating that she had been taken off of his 401k. If that was the case, wouldn't that further serve to show less of a motive? It's not like, you know, he was taking her off as a beneficiary. So why do away with him when she would have more access to the money and stuff like that in her lifestyle to stay with him? Exactly. There's no motive for money. No, and so far I can't remember what they said or indicated that the motive was in the opening statements. I just can't remember. But I just don't. I still all this time, all these witnesses, all this testimony, I still have no indication of like what would she benefit. She was able to go see Rusty, have her affairs, long-term affairs, invite her lovers to the wedding, to the dinners. So she had access to the money. She had the whole run of the house. The husband was living in the basement. She had her farm and her horses and baby ducks. I just don't get what was she gonna gain?
And was your husband also in town with you that week?
Yeah, we were both working.
Good point, Silky Black. Good point.
So on Monday, July 2nd, did you work?
Yes.
And what about Tuesday, July 3rd?
Still working. Yes.
What about the 4th?
We had the 4th off for the holiday.
What did you do?
We went to lunch. My husband, Chris, and Olivia, we went out to lunch that day.
How do you remember that you went out to lunch that day?
I just think that after all of this, there was just like sticking points in my memory. But we went to Scout's Pub over in West Haven. My husband is in the restaurant industry, and he was the the director of operations for A. Marshall Family Foods, and like they own Puckett's. Anyway, Scouts is one of their newer restaurants. So part of his job was to go eat at the restaurants pretty frequently just to make sure everything was operating smoothly. So every time we had an opportunity, we would try to go to one of their restaurants to eat. So we did. We went to Scouts that day. I do remember, again, vividly, just because of the situation, I did take a picture of Olivia at the restaurant, and I sent it to kind of the family group email. I would try to do that quite often just because we were in Tennessee and they were all in Georgia. I would send pictures of Olivia almost daily to them.
And that was on the 4th?
Yes.
Did your dad ever respond to that photo?
He didn't, and that was odd for him.
Would he typically respond?
He would. Yes, definitely.
To his photo of his adorable granddaughter.
Yes.
So that was on the 4th. And then what did you do after lunch?
I think we probably ran a couple errands, but, Olivia was little, so she was on the sleep schedule. So, we would have gone home for her to take a nap, and we would have stayed home the rest of the day. We were home at that night for sure.
Your life was dependent on naps at that time.
Pretty much. She dictated everything.
But I think this would be a good time for a mid-morning break.
All right, take a mid-morning recess.
Okay, welcome to back to the box, Kathy. So Kathy just came up with a great theory, right? So to the question of what would she have to gain, and put something to say, well, maybe she just didn't like, maybe she just hated him, right? And there's that. Okay, I definitely can see that. And then let me see. Renee say, "I'm not." Wait a minute. All caps, not. I'm not going to talk bad about the dad. The only thing he did wrong was discuss marital affairs with the children. Now I'm going back to work. Leave me alone. Ciao. What is up in this box tonight? Y'all came in hot, baby. I think because we have not I robbed y'all of y'all time watching this trial, and it shows. So Kathy says, wait a minute. Kathy says, maybe she wanted him dead before he could take her off everything. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Now that's a good what theory? I can't think about what that is. A good what? Let's see. So the daughter married a man with bad credit, and her mama and daddy had to fix it. These kids are a mess. Right, but remember I said all the people in their city and their town, they thinking they getting a good catch and marrying into money, And here they go, everything tied into the daddy and his money. Crazy. Right. Night court is absolutely crazy tonight. And I need to do my themes and stuff saying that this is night court, because that's what I'm going to call it, night court. That basement area looked like a nice, okay. That basement area looked like a nice 1-bedroom apartment. He just dealt with it. Baby, Dad's bedroom, that basement looked like a nice 2-bedroom apartment. You got to remember, the basement had a bedroom, half bath, an office, a media room, a bar, all in the basement. Was there a marriage a happy one? Don't seem like it. And you got to remember, she started cheating early, the first time, early on in the marriage when the kids were small. Cray. She had a few boyfriends. All right, let me get past this break. The magical marvels of technology. We get to fast forward. Boom. Oh, she looks sad. Oh. Oh, that sounds like some fat girl stuff. Child, let me eat my chocolate fudge caramel cheesecake. That is too many descriptors on a piece of cheesecake. Before the boyfriend, I was wondering, well, you know what? For her to cheat so wide out in the open with her brother-in-law, I would speculate that couldn't have been her first time cheating, right? That just for her first time cheating that we know of, it was with her sister-in-law man. That take a lot of guts. Dad worked hard just to be taken advantage of by all of them. He didn't deserve this. Dad was not no saint. Dad had women too. Okay. Dad was just way more circumspect. Baby, I'm pulling out all my vocabulary words tonight. I'm showing out. But with his dealings. I don't know. They was high school sweethearts.
Just a little bit, you trail off as you finish your sentences, and so just speak clearly. All right, go ahead.
All right, Emily, we were just kind of talking about the week of July 1st.
No, she definitely knew about her mom bullshit. You must have missed that part, Lady Jill.
Yes.
And you did not hear back from your dad.
I did not.
Indeed.
Did you hear back from your mom?
I think my sister was the first one to respond, and then my mom didn't respond until around 8 o'clock at night.
On the 4th.
On the 4th.
So other than that, nothing unusual on the 4th was happening. You're
not to my knowledge. Everything was normal.
I do actually want to back up a little bit before we get into the 5th. For April of that year, did you know that your dad had been in the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get the chance to visit him while he was in the hospital?
No. So I found out that he was in the hospital and I wanted to come. And he was actually the one that said, no, don't come here. It's fine. But yes, I knew he was in the hospital.
Okay. But was that the only conversation that you guys ever really had about it?
No, I mean, I spoke with my mom and I also spoke with my brother, Chris. I didn't talk to my dad again or like on the phone until I think the day he was leaving. But I mean, I think the reason why I was so upset was because when I would talk to my mom, she made it sound like it was really, really bad. Like he was in really bad shape. I was expecting in my mind, I was thinking it was really bad. Like he was going to the hospital. And it wasn't until I heard from my brother, Chris, that he's like, no, Daddy said, don't worry about coming up here. Please don't worry about him. And he's just sitting up in the bed and talking and watching TV. It's not as bad. That put me at ease, kind of hearing his version of the situation.
Okay.
Yep.
So you didn't end up visiting him?
No.
Because you learned it really wasn't that bad.
Right. And then I did ultimately talk to my dad and he sounded normal. He sounded like himself. And he said, I'm going home. No reason to worry. My dad was always very much so to put us at ease. Everything is fine. Please do not worry. I'm going home. Everything's good.
Now I want to talk about the morning of July 5th. What did you and your family do that morning?
So I worked on July the 5th. The office was open, so I was driving. I drove into work that morning. I dropped Olivia off at daycare, and I went into work that day, as did my husband.
And eventually, did you get a call from any of your family members looking for your dad?
Yes.
Who called first?
So my brother Chris called me first when he was driving up there, and he said, so I just talked to Amanda, and apparently they can't find Daddy anywhere. And I think I said, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean they can't find him? He's like, they're apparently looking everywhere and they cannot find him. He said, I'm on my way up there right now to see what's going on.
Okay. And at that point, what was going on in your head?
Well, honestly, that morning driving in, I thought about that text message that I sent with Olivia's picture. And I thought back to that moment, like literally in the car on my drive in, I was like, that's weird. He didn't respond to that message. He always responds to pictures of Olivia and he never responded. And so that's really weird. And so like that made me pause. But then after Chris called me, like it just made me think about like, it made me worry even more when he called and said that because of the fact that my dad hadn't, like I had realized that morning that he hadn't responded to my text message. And that really made me worry.
Who was the next person you heard from?
I did talk to Chris like a few times, like he would kind of keep me up to date. The other person I spoke to was my mom. She called me.
Around what time was this? Do you remember?
It was before lunchtime, Tennessee's Central, so we're an hour behind. It was maybe like 10 or 11-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 11, 12 here, our time.
Yes.
And what did your mom say to you when she called?
She said, well, your daddy's missing. And I said, what do you mean he's missing? And she said, well, we're out here looking for him and we can't find him anywhere. And I said, well, go look. Are his clothes still there? Is his CPAP machine still there? Like, did he leave? And like, did he just leave? Like, and I said, go look for that stuff. Look for his keys, look for his phone, look for his wallet, like go look for that stuff. And she just kind of was like, okay, and got off the phone with me.
Okay.
She did call me back, however, and she asked me if I was on any of his bank accounts. And I said, no, why would I be on any of his bank accounts? She's like, well, I just thought that maybe you could log into the accounts and see if there's been any activity. I said, no, I don't have access to that. Okay. And we hung up the phone.
Okay. Was that shortly after the first phone call that you had with her?
Yeah, I mean, she called me, like literally called me right back and asked me that question.
And then who did you hear from next?
I think it was Chris. I mean, he would keep calling just to like let me know. And I think I even said to him, like, call local hospitals, maybe like he went to the ER or something. But I know that when I like first got word that he was missing, I called my dad and it went to voicemail. And I don't know if I texted him, but I did send him an email to his personal email and his work email saying like, we're trying to find you. Where are you? Please call me back. Like it was very brief, something to just be like, hey, if you get this, call me. Mm-hmm. And then the next call I got was from Chris. And he said, he's gone. I said, what do you mean he's gone? What are you talking about? And he said, Emily, he's gone. I was like, where did he go? He said, no, he's gone. He is gone. He's like, we think he's in the burn pile. And that's just kind of when it went, I just lost it. I just said, I'm coming. I'm on my way. And then I think I talked to my sister, Amanda, and she was very upset. And I just said, I'm on my way. I'll be there as soon as I can. And so I left the office. I called my boss immediately, and I I packed up, I left, I went and got Olivia, and I called my husband, and he met me at home, and we packed up as quickly as we could, and we drove to Atlanta.
I want to talk about those phone calls briefly. How did Chris sound on the phone with you?
Frantic. Like it first started like what is going on? Like, you know, when he said, I'm going to go up here and see what's going on. Like, it was almost like, I need to figure out what's going on. But like when he got there and started looking around and like, they couldn't find him, like he was frantic. And when he called me about them after they had found him, essentially, it was just devastation in his voice.
Welcome back, Sassy Friends.
What about your sister, Amanda? How did she sound?
She was crying.
Welcome back to the box, Sassy Friend. Good to see you.
I mean, we were all extremely devastated. My mom called me when we were driving to Atlanta, and we just cried. We cried. I think the only words that I got out was, I'm on my way. And she just said, okay.
And so when you arrived to the house, do you remember what time it was, to the farm, I should say?
Yeah, it was early evening. The sun was setting, but it was early evening when we finally got there.
When you arrived, what was the feeling, the vibe of the scene when you got there?
It was very quiet. It was very, like, eerily quiet. Everyone was just standing around. No one was talking. And I was, when I got out of the car, I got Olivia out, and I just.
Wait a minute, I'm getting 2 outnumbered. Miss Steph 219. If you in the cloud, Miss Steph 219. Girl, I need you. Team Melody is suffering. I feel like I'm the only one Team Melody tonight. Oh, Tiki Team Melody. Tiki, where is your hashtag, girl? They running us in the ground with Melody guilty.
Just immediately handed her, I think it was to Amanda or my mom, and we were all crying. Just tears.
Was law enforcement on scene at that point?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you remember speaking with any law enforcement on scene?
I did eventually speak with Detective Hayes, yes.
How long was that conversation?
I mean, it was a pretty good amount of time, maybe 30 minutes or so. I can't really remember exactly how long it was. It was a good length.
And while you were on scene, did you hear Scott mention anything about a gun?
No, he was just like, he's like, there's something going on here. Like he was like his senses were up. Like he's like, there's something going on. Like this isn't normal. I definitely, like, driving down, in my mind was thinking that some terrible accident had happened. Like he had caught on fire, you know, doing something with the burn pile, and he had caught himself. Like I thought he had had a terrible accident. And then by the time I got there, it just quickly started to sink in the seriousness of what happened. And like just reading the room essentially. I think a lot of people, their suspicion of what actually happened was starting to grow.
Did Scott mention anything about blood to you?
No.
When did you find out that your father had been shot?
Well, it wasn't like confirmation, but the first time I ever heard of any of him possibly being shot was Friday. So I guess that was the 6th. My brother Chris called me very, very early in the morning and said Detective Hayes called him and said that they had found a bullet in my dad's rib. And I said, like, what? Like, what? Like, it was surprising to hear that. And they were like, yeah. And, you know, he's asking, you know, me about it. He's asking where I was. And that's also the time he filled me in. Like, I didn't know that my mom and Scott were being questioned at the precinct. Like, I had no idea that was happening. And like, Chris told me, yeah, like they're apparently still there. And honestly, my first reaction when I found out that my mom was still being questioned, I said, do we need to get her a lawyer? That was my first reaction. I said, I don't know what's going on and I don't know what happened to him, but I don't want her to get in trouble for something she didn't do. So maybe we should get her an attorney. That's kind of what we discussed at that point.
So did that happen? What did you guys do next?
We did. I think Amanda called maybe somebody at my dad's law firm with like recommendations on what to do. And she got a name and she called and we did later that day end up going to an attorney's office. Yes.
On the 6th.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did the whole family meet with the attorneys?
Yes, it was me and my husband and Olivia were the first to get to the office, and then Chris and Scott followed, and then Amanda. We were able to get her out of the room with questioning, and Amanda brought her down to the office.
Brought who?
My mom. Sorry, down to the office.
Were your brothers there as well?
They were, yes. And Chad Bruce was there too.
Chad Bruce.
Chad Bruce.
And who's Chad Bruce?
Amanda's now husband, then boyfriend.
After meeting with the attorneys, did things change among the 5 of you, your siblings and your mom?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. I think something was brewing, I should say. That experience over that weekend, I know for me personally, definitely had me starting to lean towards somebody did this to him. And it was not, I mean, I think we all had our own perceptions of what happened and we were taking it all in differently. But I know for me, I was kind of naive in the moment. But just the interactions over the weekend, how people were talking to each other, like by the end of the weekend on my way home, I mean, I told my husband what I thought actually had happened. So.
You mentioned that you started realizing that someone did this to your father, but you had heard about a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
So were people not sure that
yeah,
happened?
We basically had the attorney saying they could just be lying to you. It's not like they're not.
It's not the truth of the matter asserted, Judge. It just goes to the feelings of the parties.
Repeat the question.
My question?
Yeah.
What made her essentially say, we thought this could possibly somebody did this to him? Why was there hesitation when there was a bullet found in his body? It's to explain why they thought the way they did. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Repeat your question.
Sure. When law enforcement informed Chris that there was a bullet in his body, and you had mentioned that you were coming to the realization that someone may have done this to your dad, but knowing that there was a bullet in him, why did people still think that? Why did you think that maybe it was not a bullet?
Well, I heard the attorney say, like, they could just, I mean.
Don't go into what the attorney told you, just what your response was.
Well, Judge, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted. It's to explain why she thought that maybe he wasn't shot.
I don't know that she needs to explain why she thought maybe he wasn't shot. She can just say that she wasn't sure because she didn't know.
But I'm trying to get out why she didn't know. Not the truth of the matter asserted,
She
Judge.
didn't know because she hadn't looked in the.
It just goes to the feelings of all the parties afterwards.
We talked about that.
I object to her back talking the judge. Okay, she is getting a little bit out of control. How many times the judge gotta tell her no? She better not try that in my court. I wouldn't have it.
Yeah. So you can go into all that without going to what the lawyer specifically said to her.
Okay. So, at any point, did you actually realize, and was it confirmed that your father had been shot?
Yes,
Okay.
I did receive confirmation later that my dad had been shot, and that was pretty much the sticking point for me.
Okay, so prior to that, it was still essentially up in the air with the family that
Right.
that was confirmed.
Like this possibly could have happened.
Okay. You mentioned that was a sticking point for you. What does that mean?
I guess I just needed to hear that that's actually what happened. Like I just needed to hear that from like a professional, so a trusting source that's what had happened. And when I heard that, I thought, I mean, it just confirmed my beliefs.
What was the relationship like between you and your mom after this? Before you found out about the confirmation of the bullet?
I mean, it was normal. I was still talking to her. I mean, it kind of blurs together, but I mean, I know that there was a lot of her. I mean, we were all like just trying like all hands on deck just to help with getting information. Like we had no idea if my dad had a will. We didn't know really anything. We were completely hit by this out of the blue. So we were really just trying to figure out what to do, just to kind of take care of things and get access to things. And I mean, I was talking to her during that time. I mean, she's still my mom. So like I didn't like act any differently with her.
Okay. And at some point, did that change?
Yeah, I mean, she became more hostile. She was more aggressive with us. She was demanding money. Like she would like bring up instances where my dad had lent us money or something, and she would be like, "It's time to pay me back. Like I need you to pay me back now." And I was just like, well, you know, I had a payment plan with him. Like I wasn't just going to give him like a lump sum. And, you know, she was getting pretty aggressive with that. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the best way to describe her behavior.
At any point, did she show up in Tennessee to your house?
She did.
What was that about?
Well, she did, I guess you can call it showed up. She did it twice. There was once where she kind of did a drive-by at my house. She circled my house a couple of times with Martha Jane. There was another time where she showed up at like 9:00 at night out of the blue. I had no idea she was coming, and she showed up at my front door and she came in. At the time, I had received a letter from Sally Sims. She's the coroner, I think. She had, you know, we were again trying to get access to money so, you know, we could take care of things. We were talking about, you know, getting a funeral together. What we learned from the funeral home is if there is a life insurance policy and someone's the beneficiary, like you could basically use that to help pay for the services. So we were trying to kind of get things together. And so because we didn't have the death certificate, that made it really difficult to do anything. So Sally was so graciously, or Miss Sims was so graciously offered me a letter basically saying like, you know, my dad's birth date and, you know, expected death date, but it was not a death certificate. It was just like on a letterhead.
Okay. And what was the purpose of that? To see if you could start paying down bills and stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. It was simply business related, just trying to like take care of things. Yeah.
And so your mom showed up at your house?
She did. She showed up demanding that letter, and I didn't want to give it to her. I didn't want to give it to her at that time. Again, I had suspicions, and I just didn't want to give it to her.
Did you ask her questions during that confrontation?
Yes.
And what did you ask her?
I can remember, she was getting angry that I wasn't giving her the letter. And I was saying, like, it's not a death certificate. You can't do anything with the letter. But I don't want you to have it. If you want it, you can call up to the coroner's office and you can get your own copy. But we did go into, I was like, Mama, like, things aren't lining up. Your story, because like she would start going into like, well, when Scott reached down and picked up your daddy's skull. And I was like, that's the thing, is like, things aren't lining up. Like, your story's different than their story. And I was like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And the conversation did not end well. She ended up storming out.
What was her response to you confronting her?
She was calm. She didn't.
Did she answer your questions?
I mean, not really. I think I was a little erratic at the time. But I don't really remember her saying anything like there was nothing that would like stood out to me that she said in the moment. Ultimately she turned around and walked out.
When was the last time you spoke to your mom?
So it was probably so my husband and I decided that with everything that was going on, it was best to try to do something with the house, because one, we were worried of the result of all this investigation was going to be, and also like we knew that we were going to want to move into a bigger home for our family's future. So we said, let's just kind of kill two birds with one stone. Let's get this out from under your dad's name or your parents' name, and let's find a bigger house. So I did reach out to my mom just to see if we could have like a cordial interaction to get the house sold. I told her, I said, my intention is to do what I said I would always do and get this house out from under daddy's name. That's what I would like to do. And we're going to start that process. And she was not easy to work with. It was really bad. She just, I don't know if she wasn't understanding me. I was basically trying to get power of attorney for her in the matter of selling the house, so she didn't have to like come up to Nashville to like sign stuff. Like, I could basically sign for her. But she did not have trust in me to do that. And so she asked me, like, she would ask me to send her all the paperwork, and I would, and then she just would ghost me. Like, she would just go quiet, and she wouldn't. I even offered to give her money. I was like, hey, I'll give you $3,000 if you'll just do this for me. Like, I'll give you some money. And even then she said no. And so ultimately we talked to our close friends there in Franklin, and they recommended an attorney to help us. We ended up going to court about it. And ultimately it was decided in my favor, and the house was transferred into my name.
That was the last time you talked. That was the last thing you talked to your mom about.
Well, she was I think the court date was actually like the day after she had gotten arrested. But when we decided that we were going to hire an attorney, I think that's when we decided, that's when communication stopped.
Did you communicate with Amanda during this time prior to your mom's arrest?
Communication started to slow down with Amanda. Amanda was very supportive of our mom, and she did not agree with the fact that we weren't going to be very supportive, me and my brothers. And she was very angry that we weren't being supportive. And, you know, we were very honest with Amanda, like, you know, if you want to support her, that's your decision. But like, we're not going to like be angry at you for doing that. But she seemed to be so angry at us for not supporting her that, I mean, she would send explicit text messages to us. She was very verbally aggressive. So the communication started to slow down quite a bit with Amanda, just because every time we would talk to her, it got pretty contentious.
I want to talk about your dad a little bit. Was he ever suicidal?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
Did Melody ever seem concerned with finding out who did this in front of you?
No.
That's all I have for you, Emily. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, oh, hold on. Oh man, why they got this dude? Is this the first time we saw this attorney ask questions? Because it's been the other attorney the whole time. The two first name attorney. Man, I was just pausing it to say I am so looking forward to the cross-examination. But I don't know what this guy gonna do. Thank y'all for supporting this content, you guys, and having a lively chat discussion. Once you hit the chat, you are a part of the Lit Lane jury box, okay? Thank y'all so much. Make sure you hit the like in case you forgot. And hit the bell, too, so you won't miss any more of this exciting content. Trial Watch with Demetra.
First off, you were interviewed by Detective Hayes on July the 5th, 2018, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
So that would have been the day you came down from Tennessee.
Mhm.
Where was that interview at? Was it at the Free Home Precinct or was it at the house?
It was actually at the barn on the property. So it was on the property, but it was at the barn.
Okay. So still on the property.
Yes.
Was everybody else still on the property?
Yeah, everyone
That
was
being,
there.
you know,
Yeah.
Scott, Chris, Melody. Okay.
Yes.
Amanda, Chad.
I don't know if Chad was there at the time, but Amanda was there.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and tell you, because your interview, your direct, the order of it, I'm going to have to kind of jump around, okay? So if I confuse you, just let me know. You were calling that interview to tell Detective Hayes that you knew perfectly well that your parents lived in separate rooms, correct? Slept in separate rooms?
I knew that they slept in separate rooms, yes.
In fact, you actually told Detective Hayes that you found your parents' relationship odd.
I did.
You also, he had talked to you about any history of violence between your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And you recall telling him that you never even really saw them argue anymore, correct?
I don't know if I said that. I've never seen any physical act of violence between my parents.
Do you recall telling him that when they get upset with each other, they just don't speak to each other?
Yes, I would believe that. I would say that, yes.
And also, in fact, that you said that essentially for the past, at this point, at least the past decade, they essentially lived as roommates.
I don't know if I would call it roommates. I think that they slept in separate bedrooms, but I mean, their clothing were still like they still had closets in the master bedroom. I mean, my mom had closets of clothes all over the house, but like they still went to the master bedroom to get dressed. I know my dad still used the master bathroom. My mom used the bathroom upstairs to get ready, but you know, she had like a ton of stuff. So, I don't know if roommates is the best, but yes, I mean, they were still contentious with the fact that there was a rift in the marriage.
Okay. We'll come back to this. You don't recall any money issues between your parents, or your father did not have any money issues to the best of your knowledge?
No.
Were you aware of the level of financial support your parents had to give Chris and Scott?
Oh, yes, I was.
And Gary helped you out too as well, right? Not to that level, but
Not to that level, no.
because he co-signed on the house for you.
Mm-hmm.
He also helped you with the condo prior to moving to Tennessee.
Condo.
Apartment?
I paid my rent for my apartment in Atlanta, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. Did Gary ever pay your rent?
No.
Okay. Did Gary ever pay your utility, cell phone, insurance, anything like that?
I was on our family plan for cell phone.
Okay.
And then I decided to go on my own account. I think that was like in 2012, I want to say. But I did actually separate from my family's cell
Okay.
phone plan.
Did you know that essentially Chris's entire utilities were paid by Gary?
I was aware of that,
Okay.
yeah.
And did you know essentially Scott's entire living existence was funded by Gary?
Yes,
Okay.
I knew that.
And did the whole family know that?
Yes, I mean, yeah. We all knew that for
Okay.
sure.
And did you have any access to, did you have a Gary credit card or debit card?
No,
Did you have access or know any of his account information?
I did not know.
Okay. And kind of just jumping around on the 5th when you got here, you had a conversation with Chris where you had to loan him $20 so that he could leave.
Yeah.
And I believe you had to loan him that $20 because he stated that he had bounced a check and his accounts were overdrawn.
I don't know why I assumed he just didn't have the cash, but I don't know what happened, why he needed it from me. He asked if he could borrow some cash, and my husband went to the ATM, got some out, and gave it to him.
Okay. See, but you don't know what he was using it for?
I assumed just to get home.
Okay. Kind of just jumping around. So all the kids knew about Ted Wiley around 2008.
Yeah.
Okay.
Around
And
that
at this
time.
point in time, Chris is a grown man, right? In 2008.
Yeah. Yes.
So is Scott.
Mhm.
Okay. I think you're in college at this point, right? So
I am, yeah.
You're grown. And I think Amanda's in college too.
Yes.
Okay. So all children are now adults
Mhm.
on their own.
Right.
Now, you had told on direct examination, I think that Chris is the one that told you about Ted Wiley.
No,
Or no, I'm sorry. That Gary had told you directly about it.
Mhm.
Okay. And what did he called and told you that?
He did.
And then you had went through, and you had talked about this account where Melody had taken money out that your father told you about, the HELOC account.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware that it's around this point in time that Gary had actually filed for divorce?
I don't think I knew that he had filed for divorce, like leading up to it or when it was happening. I think I found out about that like later on. I don't think I knew in the moment that he had filed for divorce.
Did you know that Melody taking the money out of the account coincides with being served with the divorce papers?
I probably don't. I couldn't tell you exactly when she did it or exactly when he filed for divorce. So I don't know if those happened together.
Okay. Regarding the money, do you know, did Melody just take that money when her and Gary got back together, or she put it back in the family account?
She did not return it. No.
Okay. And did your dad ever tell you what happened to it?
No, she just didn't give it back.
Okay. Gary do you know where it was?
She did say, I did ask her if she still had some of the money left, and she said she did have a little bit of it left, but I know my dad said she never returned it. He said that several times.
Okay. And that account, because you called it a HELOC account,
Mhm.
It wasn't like she went and took out a mortgage. It's just money in an account.
No, they had the HELOC. They had it already open with the house that they were in, so it was like something they can draw from.
Yeah, so you can pull money out. It's not like going
Correct.
to get a new loan.
Right.
Because your mother wouldn't qualify for a loan because she was a stay-at-home wife.
Right.
Now, Rusty being at your wedding,
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you. Megan, do you turn it off? So Rusty was at your wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew who Rusty was previously, right?
Yes.
You knew who the person was.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I believe you testified on direct examination that I want to make sure I got it correctly, that essentially that your dad was devastated.
Yes. I mean, he was
Okay.
very
So
upset.
your dad's devastated at your wedding. And I'll show you what Marcus paint in. Your devastated dad is standing directly next to lighting a sparkler with Rusty Barton.
Mhm.
Okay, good. And he's devastated at that point.
I would say he was probably more devastated. My dad was a very selfless person, and he would not have been sulking around angry. He would have never made a scene at my wedding. So my dad, I think at that point, with how much they had gone through with all like this stuff, I think that he was able to like compartmentalize things and focus on the event, what was going on.
Okay, but you would agree with me, even if he's not wanting to ruin your wedding, which I would agree. I don't think any father would want to ruin their child's,
Right.
especially their favorite child. I think everybody agrees you're Gary's favorite, just so you know.
Okay.
He doesn't have to stand next to the man you supposedly believe is devastating the wedding, right?
Yeah, I know. When I saw this picture, I thought that was weird for
Okay.
sure.
By the way, when was your wedding? What year?
2016,
2016.
July of 2016.
July?
It was in July.
July? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So 2 years before Gary's passing. Because he passed
Yes.
in 2018.
Yes.
Or that's when the remains were found. All right. So you had talked a lot about how you didn't want Rusty being at the wedding, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And you said something interesting, I thought, that you couldn't do anything about it, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here,
Mhm.
because Melody would cancel your wedding.
I believed that. Yes.
Okay. Now, you also testified previously that after the whole Ted Wiley situation, that your dad had changed all the accounts and took Melody's name off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what you testified to.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Melody didn't have a job. She was a stay-at-home mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gary's the breadwinner. If any of y'all need money, who do you call?
I mean, both my parents, but
Who's got the money?
my dad has.
I mean,
My dad has
they're
bank
married.
accounts,
It's
right.
their money, but
Right.
it's Gary's money, right? He's the one making it.
Right.
Okay,
So, he is the income.
Okay, so how can Melody cancel your wedding? She doesn't even have a credit card.
She has a lot of influence over everything, especially my dad. I mean, even though my parents were having a troubled marriage, I would say, he listened to her and did not want to upset her. And if she said, Gary, don't do this, he'd listen to her. He would do absolutely everything that she said.
You're telling this jury that the man who removed his wife from all financial accounts and, according to the state, controls every ounce of her spending, still listened to her and would do what she wanted him to do?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That happened, when that happened with Ted, that was many years before. And I think, he did it in an emotional reaction. But my dad spent a majority of the years later trying to get her back, essentially, trying to make her happy. And she still got everything she wanted. It wasn't anything like that. But yes, if my mom said, don't do this now, he would have listened to her.
Okay. Well, that didn't work with our house, with your house.
I'm
He didn't.
sorry.
That didn't work with your house.
What do you
Right?
mean?
When he went on there to get on the mortgage, you said Melody was all mad about it for
She was
whatever
angry.
reason,
She was angry. And
and he still did it.
that is because she said that the only reason she would agree to it is if she's added to the title of the house as one of the owners. And in the moment, I agreed to it because I was in a tough spot, and that's what had to happen. And I told my husband, we will refinance a year from now, and we'll get it under our names. So she agreed to it, but that was the terms of her agreement.
And you had mentioned on direct, there was something about some Tennessee law where your spouse
Yeah.
had to know.
I didn't know about that, but apparently that's something like our broker had said to us, that in Tennessee, when one spouse buys, I guess, real estate, the other spouse has to sign off on it.
Growing up, did you ever hear the name Angela Phillips?
Yes.
You realize that was your father's longtime assistant?
His secretary. Yes,
Yeah.
the secretary.
And she had actually moved from Alabama to Atlanta.
I don't know. I was so young. I didn't know if she came from Alabama, but sure.
Oh, that's right. Because In 95, when they moved, you would have what, been like 6 or 7?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
Or 8.
but you remember seeing her in Atlanta, right? When y'all lived
She
in
would
Alpharetta?
she would be at the office when we'd go up there to visit my dad. And then there would be times where Angela would kind of like babysit us.
Mhm.
She'd come into the house and watch us while my parents were doing whatever they needed to do. Yeah.
And you had no idea that your father had at least somewhat of an affair with Miss Phillips.
I have no knowledge of anything like that.
Okay. And where do I want to go? And just on Amanda and Chad, they were both at the wedding, right?
Yes, actually, my wedding weekend was the first time I met Chad.
Because I know you stated at one point that Amanda was extremely upset, right, at the wedding.
Yes.
Right. All right. And we'll agree that that's Rusty, right?
It is.
And Chad.
Yep.
And they're just sitting there drinking beers.
Mm-hmm.
Chad's Amanda's then boyfriend, now husband.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now you married a man named Chris Payne.
That's right.
Yeah, 2 Chris's in the same family. That gets confusing.
It does.
Let me see now. Trying to read my own handwriting. Just give me one second. Oh, so your daughter was born in 2017. Melody came up there, and I think you actually said stayed a few weeks with you.
Yes, that's right.
Stayed in your house.
Mhm.
Okay. Did I know Gary had come up to the hospital?
Mhm.
Did he leave after that?
He did. Yeah, he stayed for a couple of days. I think he left the day that I was to be discharged. I think it's when he went back home.
Now, I want to, because I'm sorry I'm having to jump around like that. This is that message that Ms. Francis was going over with you. This was sent on July the 2nd, and then about Chris charging money and all that stuff. And a trip you weren't going on, so you probably didn't care about. I'm assuming that's why you didn't respond. Then Ms. Francis did go over the following messages, which is on here, and this is pane 11.
Mm-hmm.
July the 4th, 2018. Melody has sent you, I Missed a Little Princess.
Mhm.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm assuming that is in response to the photograph that you had sent of Olivia.
That's right.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
And so that was at 8:15.
Mhm.
All right. And then the following day, because you had kind of bounced around on direct between, who calling and texting when everybody was looking for Gary.
Mhm.
But you can see here, July the 5th at 12:23, Melody had texted you and said, call me ASAP.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and if that was 12:23 here, that would be 11:23 your time in Tennessee.
Right.
So that kind of makes sense. So Melody texted you, and I'm assuming you would have called her back, and that's when she would have said, we can't find your dad. Okay. Now, who out of your 2 brothers, who are you the closest with? Chris?
Probably, yeah,
Okay.
Chris.
I want to ask, just because, I'm trying to figure it out with the whole Gary birthday, Father's Day celebration thing, in these text messages, you're a little upset about with Scott.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. But then you're also testifying that Melody had something to do with it.
Yes.
So what my question is, well, first off, because there's multiple Chris's. So who's going to smoke the food? Your Chris or Chris Ferris?
My brother, Chris Ferris.
Okay, so Chris Ferris is going to smoke food at Purcell Lane.
Mm-hmm.
That was your plan. And then the plan just kind of changes, or for whatever reason, and Scott's going to smoke the food. Okay, who cares? Why is that such a big deal?
I just thought it was rude that my brother and I were planning to do these things. We thought was a nice gesture for the family, and it seemed like we were trying to get roadblocked.
Why are you there? Why are you Yeah, why are you dating? Why are you throwing Scott and Melody in together? There's no indication of any of that.
Well, she went out and bought Scott a brand new smoker. I mean, I just thought I thought it was like very, I mean, I just felt like, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, that's fine. I'll move on. Moving to the episode that Gary had.
Mhm.
So if I understood it correctly, somebody called you, said Gary's real bad. And then later on, Chris calls you and says, no, he's actually fine. And you just thought that was strange. Does that sum it up?
I mean, I thought it was strange that my mom was making it sound like he was at death's door.
Okay.
And then I hear from my brother, and it's not as heavy as a situation as I thought it was.
Okay. Would you be surprised that Scott testified and being one of the people that took him to the hospital of how bad he actually was?
No, I mean, I'm sure he was bad. I mean, if you're wanting to go to the hospital, I would imagine you're probably not in good shape.
Yeah. And it was only just because he had gotten some treatment, and then when Chris got there, he was feeling better.
Possibly.
I mean, that would kind of make sense, right? And,
Sure.
When you get lucky, you go to the doctor, you feel better.
Right.
Now, out of your two brothers, which one are you the closest with?
Probably Chris.
Well, let me ask it this way, too. You and Amanda, are y'all fairly close? Were.
We were. Yeah, I would say that once Amanda and I got into college and then into our young adult lives, we definitely got closer.
Okay. So but out of the two boys, you're probably closest with Chris.
I mean, at that time, I would say I was probably closer with Amanda at the time out of all the siblings. But ever since this, yes, I have grown significantly closer to my brother Chris and Scott.
Okay. How often would you say that you speak to Chris and Scott?
I would, sometimes we'll go through stretches where Chris and I will talk like every other day. And then there's times that we don't talk for a few weeks. And then Scott, we probably talk about once or twice a month,
Okay. How much have you talked to him? How much have you talked to Chris, let's say, past 2 weeks since this trial's been going on?
The past 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Pretty
Since
often.
beginning of October.
Yeah, pretty often.
Every day?
Sure.
How about Scott?
I mean, no, maybe every other day. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty often.
Have you talked to him since they testified here today?
Just because, I mean, yes, I'm staying at my brother Chris's house.
Welcome
and
back, Joanne.
Scott
We
is
missed
watching
you.
My kids today. So yeah, I have talked to them.
Okay. Did they talk about what they testified to?
No.
So again, they did not?
No.
Okay. All right, moving up to around July the 5th. There's a lot going on back and forth with the whole bullet issue.
Yeah.
So who gave you confirmation that there was a bullet?
Manny Aurora, the attorney that was representing my mom at the time, he called me and told me.
So he called you.
He
So you
called
never-
me with the confirmation, yes.
So you didn't learn that from Detective Hayes or any of your brothers?
No, I mean, the first time that I heard of a bullet was from my brother Chris saying that he had received a call from Detective Hayes saying that they had found a bullet in the rib. But like I said before, we didn't have any kind of confirmation from any kind of like professional. It's not saying Detective Hayes isn't a professional, but just saying like, we didn't have like, no, we just didn't have the confirmation at that point, I guess.
Okay. You had also, you were talking about with Miss Frankish, saying that Melody was demanding money back from y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. But you also said you had some kind of loan with your father?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How much was it?
It was about, I think it was $3,000. Yeah.
Okay. $3,000. Were you paying him back?
The plan was to pay him back. Yes.
Okay. When did he give you that money?
It might have been like May of 2018, I want to say. It was like early summer, I think it was when that happened.
What was it for?
My husband needed to hire an attorney.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So it was for legal counsel.
Yes.
All right. For your husband. All right. And I'm assuming, because you said that was the plan to pay him back, you had not started repaying him.
No, in fact, I was supposed to make the first payment to him in July.
Okay. Well, when you were with this supposed conversation you had with your mother,
Mhm.
do you recall telling her that you had this loan with your father and you're not going to repay her?
I did say that in anger. I did say that to her, that I wasn't going to, I had it with him. I wasn't going to pay her back. I was with him, but that was kind of in the moment. I think I just reacted in a hateful way, I should say.
And you'll agree, because Gary, I've lumped them together. Gary and Melody, they're married, right? It's theirs, right?
Mhm.
Just like you and Chris are married.
Mhm.
So what's Chris is yours and what's yours is yours.
Right.
That's what my wife says.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, you can understand her saying, hey, repay the debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving up to this whole Sally Sims thing, what kind of letter did she send you?
I mean, I probably still have it at home, but it's just kind of like recording his birth and death date, and that he was deceased.
Okay. Why would the coroner or deputy,
Right.
why would she send that to you?
I was communicating with her, just trying to see if we got any updates. I wasn't reaching out to detectives, just to kind of respect her attorney at the time's wishes. But I felt comfortable reaching out to her. She was so nice, and she always said, like, if you need anything at all, just reach out. And so I don't remember like requesting it. I think I was just talking about the issues that were coming up with not having a death certificate, and she offered that to me.
Okay. Basically, like as a compromise of, well, we don't have a death certificate, but I do have
Right.
this letter. And because it's 11 months and some change before the actual autopsy was released. Were you aware of that?
I don't know dates like that.
Okay. One second, Judge. I just got to look up one thing real quick. No further questions, Judge.
Redirect.
I don't have any redirect.
All right, you sit down. Thank you.
All right.
Probably
All
good
right.
time to break for lunch. I don't know if the
What's
food's
wrong?
here or not, but it'll be here shortly. So
Let's see who's gonna be next
we'll
tomorrow.
break and shoot for,
Let's see.
try to get back right around one.
Take a peek. Let's take a peek.
Uh,
Who is this lady?
You were called out.
Papa, who is this lady? Well, I don't know who this lady is, but she next, okay? So, I'm gonna find out who she is, because the plan is, with this being the best of. I look down at the comments, and Renee going, "Oh, girl, get your raggedy bacon bummy ass down. Wow, you are a user. I would never ask my daddy for a house if I had a husband. She has gotten on my nerves. Ooh, I think Renee a little cranky." So apparently, okay, so how do we feel? It seemed like no. Okay, that was our last witness for the night. Now, our intention is to get this is the best of, we had already known we was going to do the children, Rusty, and we heard the first witnesses, some law enforcement. So tomorrow, with her being done, we're going to watch the testimony of who's left. Amanda. Hey, OG Wucho. No, you have nope. So tomorrow we're going to do Amanda, the last adult child, the youngest girl. And then after Amanda, we're going to watch the testimony of Rusty. Okay? So that's the two testimonies we have left, Rusty and Amanda. and then we're gonna watch the verdict. And no, we're gonna watch the closing arguments because that's always good. We're gonna watch the closing arguments, the verdict, and then we're gonna rewatch the sentencing. Okay, so that's the plan for the rest of this our night court this week, and we will be wrapping this best of trial up. Now, after this night court, we won't be doing unless we're coming back and doing discussions about the trial that starts on February 3rd. You gotta remember, we're going gavel to gavel. We're going real hardcore in the paint as far as being a trial watching chat and channel. We are going really hard in the paint come February 3rd for the Tyshell Martin case out of Florida, state of Florida versus Tyshell Martin. We're gonna go into a whole nother dimension with that trial. Okay, I'm not gonna even lie, you guys. I'm anticipating. I just feel so good about it. I'm anticipating that this channel, with that Tyshell Martin case, I'm really thinking that we're gonna gain like at least at a minimum 200 new subscribers off of following that trial. It may be more, right? But I'm kind of like certain that we're going to gain like at least 200 subscribers of our coverage of the Tyshell Martin case that starts February 3rd. And I know y'all keep hearing me get more and more and more excited. Like the closer we get to February 3rd, the more and more I'm anticipating. And I'm getting like so excited. So that's why I want to go ahead and get through this best of trial. And then we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. The daytime trial we're doing, the Ponzi scheme. I just want to get these trials under our belt. And I want to be geared up for our first big trial. Because I'm telling y'all, we're going to be ahead of the game. So I'm looking forward to it. And it's just been going so well. Thank y'all so much for excellent participation, excellent attendance, excellent airtime. Okay. So, oh yeah, Lady Tia, and guess what? We are armed and ready, baby. I did so much research already on that trial that I'm going to, thank you, Tanya. I'm going to, like on this one, on the trial that's coming up, we gonna know the backstories. We gonna know who all the people is. We gonna know, boom, we gonna be ready. We going to be ready. Ready. I plan on being like one of the most informed trial watch channels on that case, period. I want to let the community know we are here, right? So I'm excited, as y'all can tell. And then I'm also excited to show you guys in premiere. We'll do that at the night court time. I'm going to premiere the true crime documentary I had worked on last month into this month. My goal in December when I started working on that was just something different, was to premiere it here with you guys before the end of January. And I actually got it done. You know, that's the one I have been doing piecemeal, bit by bit by bit. And last night I finally got the last parts done. As a matter of fact, when I get off of here, that's what me and my son finna do. We finna check it out and watch it on the big screen and see how everything looks and sounds. And so we're gonna be premiering that soon. So y'all just keep coming and keep supporting, and don't forget, you guys are on the ground floor. You know what I'm saying? The building. Y'all the first ones to get on top on this train, and we're gonna ride it out, okay? Well, you already beat the others on the Harris case. Everybody picked it up after you. Right. And you know what? On that Harris case, that is so true. And I'm gonna start I actually paid for my recorder thing I use, whatever. It don't matter. But what I was trying to say is it's my intentions to screen record the different witnesses from the Nazaria Harris and our discussions that we had and upload them as individual videos. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff to do, man. We've been just really getting it going on. I congratulate y'all and I congratulate me. Okay. Good night, everybody. Court is officially adjourned. We will reconvene same place, same time, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Until then, y'all be blessed. Court is adjourned.
Thanks for watching. Do not forget click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Like, comment and share. See you next time.